Hey, Jarek here, and this is the Xing Shen Fire Phoenix Blaster. It typically retails for about $90, although I got this one for free from Bayou Blaster. This video isn't officially sponsored, they didn't pay me anything, all my opinions are my own, all of that stuff. I'm free to say whatever I want. But if you want to get a deal on this, they are offering 12% off if you use promo code YouTube at the link down below. Okay, starting with the externals, I was very surprised when I picked this thing up. This thing is incredibly durable. Virtually everything on this is either polymer or metal. It doesn't feel like cheap pot metal, it feels like aluminum of some sort. In the box you will get the blaster, a magazine, some flip-up sights, and this fake EOTech. I left this on just because it looks neat. It's not really that great of an optic. It does have a green light in there if you turn it on, so I mean, it's kind of cool, but you can still see the irons through the EOTech, and the irons, to be honest, are a better thing to aim with than this fake EOTech. So I left it on there for video purposes. I really like the looks of this blaster. It looks like a pretty standard 45 SMG, something like, say, a UMP or any SMG that has a straight angled magazine just looks cool to me, and this has that look. In the back, there is a retractable and removable stock. You can push this button down, and if you want to pull it out, you can. It's very solid metal, so I have no worries about this thing breaking. It's also pretty comfortable as far as the length goes for me. It could work for anyone as big or small as you are. In general, this thing is a very comfortable blaster. Both grips are pretty comfy, although I do find this part here kind of digs into my thumb a little bit, so I have to hold a little lower than I want to, which is the choke up on it, which is more user error thing, but I felt it's worth pointing out. Now, as you probably figured out, this is a Springer. The strength to actually prime it is not too much. Despite the fact that this thing shoots fairly hard, it's actually really easy to prime. It's also just a really smooth prime. I have no complaints there. In fact, I can only praise it. It unfortunately does not have slam fire, but you can double load if you want to and fire multiple darts at once. I find if I do that, the darts don't really go very far unless I'm using bamboo darts, and you'll see that later. At first, I thought there was no way to deprime this thing because you can't pull the trigger while the grip is back, but you just have to pull the trigger a little bit while it's forward, then pull it back, and then you can decock it. It does have a skinny pusher, so you can insert and remove the magazine whenever you want to. You don't have to do the usual cock it back and insert it and then push it forward. You can just reload whenever you please. It's a really small thing, but this is something that you can't do with a lot of other Springers, and it is a really big advantage to just be able to top up when you want and still have one dart in the chamber. But that leads me to my biggest complaint: these magazines. Now, I got an extra one because Bayou Blaster is cool. They sent me 2 magazines when I asked. I always prefer to have an extra magazine. But these magazines are obviously not Talon mags. They're a little bit thicker. And the reason for that is because the darts this thing comes with are not regular half-length darts. These are the darts it comes with, and they're not necessarily bad as far as quality goes. In fact, they look very similar to Adventure Force Pros, but these are quite a bit longer than half-length darts. They're 3/4 darts. They're not full length, they're not half length. I don't know why they did this. Don't go in between, just go full length or half length, nothing else. With that said, there is an upside. Now, I saw Coop's review on this thing, and I had this before I saw that video, so I was surprised when he said that half-length darts don't work with this. No shout out against Coop, no shade or anything like that, great YouTuber. But that's actually not true. I've fired plenty of half-length darts. I've never had them jostle out of the mag. I've never had them jam. Half-length darts work perfectly fine in this. So again, I don't know why they went with the 3/4 length darts. You're only going to be using half-length darts anyway. But then there's the other downside. These are proprietary mags. You can't use Talon mags, obviously. They're not the same dimensions. You can't use the mags you have, which that, in my opinion, is the bigger downside. You're going to have to buy these specifically. Does the performance make up for it? Well, let's see. When I chronoed the Fire Phoenix, I found the darts it came with fired around 130 FPS. I also found roughly the same FPS with Worker Gen 3s. However, with Adventure Force Pros, I found the FPS jumped to about 145, and with Adventure Force Bamboo darts, the FPS was in the 160 range, which is kind of nutty. So yeah, clearly this thing is aiming to be a high performance, high FPS blaster. And honestly, it does a pretty dang good job at that. The build construction is flat out amazing for the price, and it fires a decent FPS. It's also pretty dang accurate. Keep in mind, when I shot this thing later in the video, I wasn't aiming at anything particular, I was just shooting for the camera, so don't think I'm actually trying to hit targets when I'm shooting it later, that's just for demonstration. Another important note is that this was not made for waffle heads, so be sure to use darts that have a smaller dart head than the dart size itself. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, there is a quick spring swap in the back here. If you just take the stock off, and you unscrew these 3 screws, this plastic piece will come off and you can just take the spring out of the back of your blaster and put in a heavier one or a weaker one, whatever you want. All right, now let's shoot this thing a little bit and then come back here for my conclusion. So how do I feel about this blaster? Well, for a Springer for $90, this is really good, with one really big downside. It's the magazines. Needing to buy proprietary magazines is a first world problem. I have so many magazines, I want them to just work with this. Unfortunately, you'll have to use these. Does it kill the blaster? No, absolutely not. Performance is great on this. You got a good price, you have good performance, you got good FPS, you got good accuracy. If you want a Springer, especially if you don't already have one, this is a great one to choose. And that should about sum it up. Huge thanks to everyone to watch this video, and I'll see you next time.